Hello there. Today we're diving into a really beautiful principle in biology, the idea that a hormone's chemical shape is its destiny. We're going to see how this one simple fact underpins everything from a sudden stress response right through to the gradual, long-term changes that shape our bodies.
Right, here's our roadmap. We'll kick off with the big picture, the body's hormonal network. Then we'll meet the key glands, the little factories pumping these chemicals out. And finally, we'll zoom right into the molecular level to see exactly how these messages are sent and, crucially, how they're received. Okay, so to really get a grip on the endocrine system, it's helpful to see what it's not. And the best way to do that is to compare it to the body's other great communication highway, the nervous system. Think of it as the difference between sending an instant message versus broadcasting a radio signal. Both send information, but their methods and reach are worlds apart. So at its core, the endocrine system is our body's long-range chemical messaging service. It uses the bloodstream as its postal network, sending out these hormonal signals to orchestrate the slow, sustained processes that define us, things like growth, metabolism, and our reproductive cycles. And this is where you see the different strategies in action. The nervous system is built for speed and precision, like a laser-targeted email, perfect for whipping your hand off a hot plate. The endocrine system, on the other hand, is that radio broadcast. It sends its signal far and wide, and any cell in the body with the right kind of receiver can tune in. The result, a much slower but far more widespread and lasting influence.
Right, so let's meet the key players in this system, the glands. You can think of these as the command centers, the factories that are working around the clock to produce and dispatch these absolutely vital hormone messengers into the bloodstream. Just have a look at the diversity on this list. You've got massive proteins like growth hormone coming from the pituitary, and then you have these much smaller fat-based hormones like cortisol from the adrenal glands. Now, this isn't just some trivial detail for a textbook. This chemical difference is the absolute #1 key to understanding how they all work.
So, we've met the glands. Now let's focus on the messengers themselves. You can basically sort all hormones into two distinct teams based on one very simple property. Do they dissolve in water, or do they dissolve in fat? Because believe it or not, that one characteristic dictates their entire game plan.
Chemically, they fall into three main families. You've got your lipid-derived steroids, which are all built from cholesterol. Then you have the amino acid-derived ones, which are just modified single amino acids. And finally, the peptide hormones, which are basically chains of amino acids. And again, this isn't just chemistry for chemistry's sake. This structure dictates their every move.
And it all boils down to this: solubility. Lipid-soluble hormones, like your steroids, are hydrophobic. They don't mix with water. Now, because our cell membranes are essentially fatty barriers, these hormones have a backstage pass. They can just slip right through. But the water-soluble ones, like insulin, they're stopped at the door. And this fundamental difference means they have to use completely different tactics to get their message across.
So this chemical divide has forced the evolution of two completely distinct and frankly quite elegant signaling mechanisms. Let's dig into how each type of hormone actually communicates with its target cell, either by letting itself in or by passing the message through the door. This question right here is the absolute core of our entire discussion, and the answer all hinges on one critical factor. Where is the hormone-specific docking station, its receptor, located? Is it waiting inside the cell, or is it embedded on the outside? Right, let's take a steroid hormone like cortisol. Its pathway is direct. Being lipid-soluble, it strolls through the cell membrane, finds its receptor floating inside, and the two of them, now a team, travel to the nucleus. There, it acts as what we call a transcription factor, binding directly to the DNA to change which genes are switched on or off. It's basically a molecular key that goes right to the cell's central library to rewrite the instructions. Now, as you can imagine, rewriting the cell's genetic software isn't a quick job, which is why the effects of steroids are slower to kick in. What's more, because these hormones need special transport proteins to travel in the watery blood, they're protected from breaking down. This gives them a longer half-life. Cortisol, for instance, hangs around for a good 60 to 90 minutes. This combination creates changes that are both profound and very long-lasting. The strategy for a water-soluble hormone like insulin is completely different. It can't get in, so it does the next best thing. It rings the doorbell. It binds to a receptor on the cell's surface. That's our first messenger. This then activates a molecular switch on the inside called a G protein, which in turn triggers the creation of a second messenger inside the cell, like cyclic AMP.
This molecule then sets off a lightning-fast domino effect, a phosphorylation cascade, activating enzymes all over the cell. The hormone never even has to set foot inside.
In this cascade system, well, it's a masterpiece of biological engineering. It creates a huge amplification effect. Just one single hormone molecule docking on the outside can lead to the activation of thousands, even millions of enzyme molecules on the inside. This is exactly why the response to hormones like insulin or adrenaline is so incredibly fast, perfect for those fight or flight moments. So let's just put the two strategies side by side. You have cortisol, the steroid, working from the inside, slowly changing gene expression for a really sustained effect. And you have insulin, the peptide, working from the outside, triggering a rapid cascade for a much more immediate but shorter-lived response. Their entire operational playbook is dictated by their chemical structure. Simple as that.
So, let's tie all of these threads together and come back full circle to our central theme, how a hormone's structure is fundamentally linked to its function. You see, a hormone's chemical structure dictates literally everything. It determines its solubility, which in turn dictates where its receptor must be. That location then determines the entire signaling pathway, whether it's a slow gene-altering process or a rapid cascade-driven one. Even how long the hormone survives in the blood is down to its structure. In short, a hormone's structure is its physiological destiny.
And this brings us to a really critical point about this whole system. If the hormone is the key, what happens if the lock is missing from the door?
Well, simply put, the message gets lost in the post. The hormone can be circulating everywhere in the bloodstream, but if a particular cell doesn't have the specific receptor for it, that cell is completely oblivious to the signal. It shows that the cell's ability to listen is every bit as important as the message itself.
And that leaves us with one final, rather sobering thought. This exquisite lock-and-key specificity is also the system's greatest vulnerability. What happens when foreign chemicals, what we call endocrine disruptors, have a shape that's just similar enough to our own hormones? Well, they can potentially hijack these receptors and wreak havoc on these vital pathways. And that, of course, is a massive area of ongoing research. Thank you for joining me.